Hello, welcome to week 11 of History 2204. We are now firmly in the 20th century. Uh, this week we're going to be talking about World War One. The first there's this week is broke up into essentially three different units. The first unit's going to be about sort of the origins of the war, which um, we've already discussed a little bit in the midterm somewhat. Um, we're going to go into a lot more detail about that, and then we'll talk about sort of the first, um, the war essentially in the first few months. The second unit will go from late summer 1914 to about 1917, early 1917, right when the U.S. gets into the war. And then the third part will go from spring 1917, late winter 1917, until the armistice, which is done in November 1918. So about the last 18 months of the war. So there will be a little bit of discussion about the Treaty of Versailles, which is the treaty that actually ends the war. Right, the armistice in November 1918 is just a ceasefire, and it's a ceasefire while basically the peace treaty can be worked out. But they could always start fighting again. That's key. Remember that. We'll talk about a little bit this week, but more next week. Um, that option is open. That option, they don't do that, right? The ceasefire is called on what we now celebrate as Veterans Day, which was called Armistice Day until World War II. Um, and it's the 11th of November. There's sort of a line that the armistice was called on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, after a little over 4 years of fighting. The treaty is signed in June 1919, right? So about 7 months after the armistice was signed. Okay, that's what we're going to start. That's what we're going to be talking about this week. There's no reading in the textbook this week. Instead, you're going to be watching different episodes of a documentary done by the BBC called the First World War is what it's actually called. There are 10 episodes. They're all about 50 minutes or so a piece. You're not going to watch all 10. I think you do watch, count them up real quick, 7 of the 10. If you want to watch the other ones, obviously you're welcome to. I really tried to cut this down as much as possible, but for you to still get sort of some understanding of what's going on. And 7 was as low as I could go. Excuse me. Okay. So that's what's going on this week. No reading, only watching. I posted this on the news as a news article. There's a quiz this week. There's no discussion this week. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the quiz worth double the points. Basically, your quiz for this week will also give you your points for your discussion. The reason I'm doing that is because of the videos, right? It's a lot of time, not necessarily reading, but watching. And I realize that, so I want to give you more points for essentially doing that. Yeah, okay. Anyway, the first thing you're going to do then is you're going to look at a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation on the origins of the war, and then you're going to watch the first episode, which is essentially about sort of the 2 months or so before the war, really 6 weeks before the war begins. I think the documentary is very good. Yeah, it's it's good. It's good. It's yeah.